Okay, so we should be all set to go. I'll let you know when I kick it off.
Okay. We're ready. I'm ready whenever.
Okay, there we go.
Hi, good morning. Welcome on behalf of USPWC to our conversation series. Last week on April 22nd, we celebrated Earth Day. And today our conversation will be around the theme of climate change and green energy. So please help me welcome our guest this morning, Maryam Sarim. She is the CEO of Instaenergy. And welcome, Maryam, and thank you to accept our invitation this morning. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Instaenergy, how you got started and what you do.
Thank you very much, Sharon and US-Pakistan Women Council for giving me the opportunity to talk about this topic that I'm very passionate about and something which is really close to my heart. And a topic which I really feel needs to be discussed so much more at whatever platform we have available. So I started my entrepreneurial journey about 2.5 years ago after a 17-year corporate career. And at that time, I felt I needed to do something which was more meaningful for me, something which was making an impact or solving a real life problem. And I was always a strong proponent of sustainability, and I would read up a lot about that. And about 2.5 years ago was the time that solar industry was really booming in, taking its foothold in Pakistan. And it got my attention and I read more about it. And I felt that there is so much of a difference that I, as an individual, can make in people's life by offering something which is of value to them. You see people all over in Pakistan getting really worried about their electricity bills, and it's really a big burden on their monthly expenses. So this was a really good solution. And, with a good payback period, and the market was also warming up, people were liking the idea and adapting to it. So this is how I took on this challenge of entering into the solar market. And I'll tell you a little bit about my company also. So we wanted, because the good thing of having a career in a corporate industry was that I knew that I needed to have good standards to work on and to build a reputation which was helpful for people, which was service oriented, which was people centric, which was energy efficient and all that. So our systems basically are customized for our for individual customers, and we strive to provide them with highly efficient systems, looking at their needs, what their monthly expenditure is on electricity bills, what kind of a roof have they available. So the systems are customized for the customer, and we try to optimize the system using our site assessment and using our technology. So this was a little bit about myself and the organization I run.
Thank you. So the theme that was chosen for this year is Restore Our Earth. And that was a call on government, civil society, and individuals also to recommit to climate change. So what is your view on that?
Sharon, one thing that I would just want to say before we say anything else is that it should not be just one day. We are standing in a situation where every day has to be an Earth Day, where every hour should be restoring our Earth. This is how critical this challenge is at the moment. And before I go on to answering your real question, I would like our audience, I would like to draw their attention on some key statistics, which will kind of give us a feeling of how stark the reality is. So maybe a lot of our audiences would already know, but the temperature of our planet is now 1 to 1.5 degree higher than it was pre-industrial era. Now that may seem a very small number, like 1 degree or 1.5 degree doesn't make a difference, but actually it does. Because in this last, few decades, we have seen the glaciers melt. It is a reality. When we were growing up, it was just a conversation that we would hear on the television or read an article once in a year or something. But now it has happened. We had ignored what the scientists were warning us of for all these decades, but now it has happened. So it's right in front of our eyes. We see many more floods now. We see many more forest fires now. We see rising tides now. And we see, a changing weather pattern. So when rains used to happen in a certain area, like in South Asia, in the monsoon area, so all our cultivation was planned accordingly. Now the cyclical pattern has changed. So this is what 1 or 1.5 degree change has done to our planet. And if we look at, the ice age, there was not much of a difference. It was just a difference of 6 degrees at that time. So we really need to think about it now. We cannot wait any longer. The second point I do want to talk about is that climate change has such an impact in every walk of life around us. Anything that we do, starting from manufacturing of cement, which is something that we all use, making of steel, something which we all use, they all use carbon emissions. The crops that we cultivate use fertilizers. Once again, we are dependent on carbon emissions. This is what we are doing, what we are eating, are all those things. So because we are using this so much, and we can't think of a life beyond it. I mean, if one day our electric kettle doesn't work, we kind of get also flustered. So we need to think about how to work around it. And this is what makes it a really big challenge. It is something that the world has not ever seen before. And this is why it needs so much of our attention.
Yeah, we know this is a global challenge, but let's bring it a little bit closer to home and talk a little bit about how we can build a culture of green energy in Pakistan.
Once again, I would draw attention to the fact that Pakistan in South Asia are deeply impacted by climate change. We have these Himalayan glaciers and all which are melting and has an impact on us. The weather cycle is changing. So Pakistan is primarily an agriculture country. So we are really impacted by what is happening. I mean, the government, to be honest, has been thinking about it and has been talking about it. Currently, if you look at the energy mix of renewable energy in Pakistan, it stands about just over 5%. So the new renewable energy policy that the government has introduced, I think late last year, has an ambitious plan to increase the energy mix of renewable from 5% to 25% in 2025 and to 30% by 2030. Now the plans are ambitious, and I would say in line with the global goals, because this is what Paris Agreement also strives to achieve. However, I mean, much that I would love to see us achieve these goals, we need to have concrete plans and an action and a roadmap on how we are going to achieve that. That there is a disconnect there. We cannot see a strategy there. And my fear is that like all good wishes and desires and dreams, would we be able to achieve it? I mean, we are already standing in 2021, and COVID has taken everything on a lesser priority. So I still cannot see the execution of these plans taking place, which is a concern. Well, there are other areas also where the government has taken a few initiatives. I mean, the plantation drive by the Prime Minister is a step in the right direction, and that policy has been going on for a few years now. But again, we talk about the fact that it is all politically connected. we do not know that as a country strategy, will that continue? We have seen other countries also where climate change, which was, very high on their priority because of change in the political setup, it was taken low on the priority. So globally and in Pakistan also, there's always a danger of it being linked to politics. So that would, that can impact. Apart from this, there has to be a lot of work that needs to be done in the manufacturing industry, in the aviation industry, in the transport industry. The government in Pakistan had recently launched electric vehicles policy also, so encouraging investment in that area. We still have to see how that unfolds. It is still very, very new. We don't have charging stations, and individuals are just buying it as a fad. So that has to really come in. So our reliance on fossil fuels is way too high in Pakistan, and there is no understanding also, especially in the rural areas of, we still have a few brick kilns, we still have coal-fired plants, and we still have very outdated methods of agriculture. So these are the things which all contribute to us not being ready for becoming a green energy or a green economy. But I really hope that the government comes up with a real action plan on how we're going to achieve those.
Mm-hmm. So we'll zoom in a little more now and talk a little bit about what you see the role of young women in Pakistan. What role can they play to address green energy, to commit to climate change?
I'm really glad that we're talking about women and gender inclusion in the energy sector and in climate change also, and what part they can play. So once again, I would say I'm a very strong proponent of gender inclusion, and I really believe that women in Pakistan do have the ability, the competence, and the willingness to play their role in different areas of the society and different markets. In the energy sector, if we talk about, if you would have asked me this question about 5 or 10 years ago, it was dominated by male members of the society. But over the last few years, we have seen more women come into and play their part in the energy sector. There is a platform or a group of women in energy. These are young girls who have formed this group, and it's, they kind of have these mentoring sessions, and they have these coaching sessions and there's some interviews from women who are working in this area, and trying to build a community. And these are all young bright girls. Then we have a few girls who are working in the consultancy of energy, and especially renewable energy. And these are young women who have studied abroad in these disciplines and come back and are working with different institutions and organizations to bring in new technologies and ways of working in green energy. In addition to these, I would like to give my kudos to Karachi Electric, who have now quite a few women and in positions of responsibility. And they are really, we recently had the Women's Day, so, they were all celebrating Women's Day. So Karachi Electric is one. Then NEPRA also. NEPRA now, I don't know if you've ever had an interaction. It was also, and it is also a male-dominated area. So when you go to their offices, there are all men. When you go to visit, yes, they're all men. I've never seen a woman there. But now this year, I'm really pleased to see that they celebrated Women's Day, and they're kind of encouraging women, and they invited them over, and so including them, making them feel that they're part of the organization. LESCO also, as a distribution company, encouraged women and all that. However, this is still a really, really first step. There is so much more to be done. The distribution companies that I work with in, Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad primarily, I literally hardly ever see a woman sitting there. It's always men, and it is, from line superintendent up to the most senior person sitting in the distribution company are all men. So a lot can be done over there. There are, I think about 30% of the graduating engineers are women. And we have a lot of electrical engineers. I get a lot of job applications, women trying to, young girls trying to make their career in the relevant field. But there is still a lot of stereotyping which comes around electrical engineers and women working in energy. So they may just find a job in the office, but the real job actually is in the field for an electrical engineer. And then the fact that they have to go on the roof and look at the site and make a site assessment, I think the society has to accept them, the organization has to give them the space and encouragement, and they need to come up. So it's a chicken and egg situation. Nevertheless, we are headed in the right direction. Things are very different to what they were 5 years ago.
So that's very optimistic. We can hope that in the future we'll see more change.
Sure.
Maryam, I wanted to ask you a little bit. You mentioned the importance and the need for green jobs. So what, according to you, would an effective blueprint for green jobs look like in Pakistan?
Sharon, this is also a very good question, I would say, because when we were in college, you would hear about professions like doctors and engineers. So when we were graduating, there were more jobs which were for MBAs and for chartered accountants and these disciplines. So now when our children are going to college and we're looking at the jobs, what will be available, there is a higher concentration. If they want to have careers, they will have to go in towards green energy. Even if you look at something like textile sector, so the importers are now asking the exporters on how energy efficient they are, how carbon efficient they are, how are they working around it. So there is a demand now for the jobs which are green jobs. And this is not only required in Pakistan, it is required all over the globe. So this is going to be the really big boom. If one has to look for careers, they need to look at the green jobs. In Pakistan also, I would say, yes, there is, of course, the future is there. Are we prepared for it is the important question. Okay, so the future is definitely going to be there, because right now, I would talk more of solar because that's a field that I work in. We do not have qualified engineers for solar only, for example. We do not have technicians who are qualified and experienced in putting the PV structure. We do not have people who are qualified in making PV designs. We have people who got their experience on the job, but it is not through a career path that they had followed. So currently that is the gap in the solar industry. But if I take it back, we need to have a thought process at the academic level also. Our universities, so far as I know, do not offer degrees or courses which are related to climate change. Okay, be it wind power or renewable energy or innovations in these areas. Because let's remember that this is a new area globally. This market is just in the introductory stage. So while whoever wants to study these things has to go abroad. So Pakistan, we need to build our academic curriculum to look after these disciplines so that the workforce that graduates is competent, is knowledgeable about how to execute these things. And once we would have that in place, we would have a workforce, and then we have the jobs creation. So electric vehicles will be a job creation. Similarly, we need to build, I'll move away a little bit from energy because climate change is much, much more than energy only. So let's take constructions of homes. So the PM has this, the Prime Minister of Pakistan has this plan of building homes for the less privileged people, let's say. So those homes must be eco-friendly homes. They must be made in a way. So do we have the engineers ready to make those homes? Do they know what technologies exist? How are we going to do it? So these are the thought process. The green jobs are available. Similarly, let's move towards farming. Do we have our, there's agricultural universities all across Pakistan. Are they offering any specialization on sustainable farming? So the jobs are there because the ecosystem is there, but we don't have the people who are ready for them.
Well, change comes sometimes a little slower than we want, but hopefully we're moving in the right direction. Maryam, there's something that I would be remiss if we don't talk about, and something that has overwhelmed our lives the last couple of years, which is COVID. And that has had an impact on climate change. So tell us how you see it has impacted green energy and climate change.
Sharon, this is of course a topic which is very close to everyone, I think. And interestingly, COVID and climate change has one thing in common. They are both collective. So that's an issue of the whole world. No one country, even if it champions the challenge, even if it is successful in, let's say, fighting the climate change or in fighting COVID, can be safe because the whole world has to be on board with it. A country has to close its borders, not let anyone come in. That cannot happen. So we are in it all together in both the things. Climate change is the same thing. One country, no matter how successful it is in combating that challenge, will not achieve the purpose till the whole world comes together. So this way they're both similar. With COVID, there have been a few eye-openers. I mean, we have seen the air quality improve because of less travel. We have, for South Asia, let me just say that I recently read somewhere that there was a noticeable difference in the slower rate of melting this year. Okay, so is that linked to COVID? Is a question mark, but this is what they're thinking. So these were the two things that gave us an indication that it is possible. We can slow it down. But on the other hand, because of COVID, when the whole world came to a standstill, a lot of initiatives which were taken locally and globally were put to halt. Paris Agreement was postponed, the European Union, all those meetings and all the agenda items where they're looking at reassessing what the contribution of different countries has been, have all been postponed, let's say 6 months, 8 months yet. We still don't know if they're going to happen. I mean, people can still not travel. Will they be able to travel after 6 months? No one knows that. So that has suffered. The agenda has slowed down. And secondly, the most important thing for COVID and for climate change is also the investment, is the money that will come in for research, because both these things need a lot of research. I mean, COVID for, of course, vaccinations, and also to study the long-term impact of the disease and the vaccination. But for climate change also, we need to invest a lot into research and development to come up with innovative ideas that we would be able to use in our farming, in our manufacturing sector, in finding alternatives to cement. And, renewable energy is just not enough. I mean, if someone thinks that by switching, we'd be able to achieve our goals, that's not going to happen. It's still going to be really difficult. So because of all the countries world over have used those funds to fight COVID and are still doing it. I mean, it's really heartbreaking to see when you look at the news coming from Brazil or now from India. It's very sad. The governments are struggling, and India was an example of they were really pursuing clean energy very aggressively. And I'm sure that that will have an impact of how much investment they're able to make in their health sector fighting COVID vis-a-vis energy sector. But it is just the fact that I would want to mention that, like COVID, because it is just happening in front of us, we can see it. Climate change is not too far away now. All these things that scientists had warned us about, it's going to happen 2025, 2030. So we really need to think about this seriously and take steps to fight this challenge.
Well, that's a very good note to end our conversation this morning, Maryam. Thank you again for joining us, and you've given us a lot of food for thought. And so let us all commit today to restore our Earth and bring new energy, new ideas, so that we hopefully will avoid all the upsets that climate change can bring. Thank you again, Maryam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and all our audience for joining us today. And we look forward to having you again on our next conversation. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.